What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 2 of Brothers of Recovery. This is a podcast where we have three brothers of recovery, three brothers in recovery, and we're sharing our experience, strength, and hope with everybody in the hopes that if you find yourself in a crux in recovery or you're finding yourself in a place where you need support, you've got brothers, you got people around you that can help. My name is Brother Sean. To my left, we got Brother Brandon.
What's up, guys?
To my right, we got Brother Josh.
What's up, everybody?
Yes. And in case this is your first time joining us, we're going to do light introductions again. This is going to be the last fucking time we do light introductions, though. Because if you're not watching episode 1 and 2, then you shouldn't be advancing to number 3. Yeah, what I mean? Anyways, uh, Brother Brandon, would you like to give yourself a light introduction?
Yes, sir. Yeah, my name is Brother Brandon Couch. I'm the host of the Recovery Couch, and honored to be on this podcast with these two guys, Brothers of Recovery, and wrote a book, Step Forward Journey Through Addiction, and just started a new foundation, the True Story Recovery Foundation, that is recovery focused, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be in recovery.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Brother Josh, would you like to give us a light introduction of yourself?
I'm Brother Joshua, Joshua Johnson. I am the host of the upcoming OYB podcast, Own Your Bullshit podcast. I am an aspiring author whose book is going to be published soon, hopefully. And the book is also called Own Your Bullshit. And it's just about showing accountability in your recovery. And I'm fortunate enough to have met these brothers and embark on this journey with them. So let's get it.
Let's go. Okay. So my name is Sean Young, once again, Brother Sean, and I am the host of Recover Out Loud podcast. And I'm just a dude that loves to talk about recovery, likes to talk about life, likes to talk about all things in the middle. I am working on my book. I guess that's the thing that we do in recovery is we start writing books about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, man, it's the only way to do it. Put your message out there, inspire other people.
Yeah, yeah. That's where the coin term I wrote the book on it comes from. Yeah, 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 man.
I
Yeah,
love it,
yeah. So
dude. I love it.
yeah, hell yeah, oh yeah.
Dropping a
I
little
am
bit of
all
knowledge there, Sean.
yeah, 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 yeah. Also, on top of that too, I'm the maestro of madness. So where I'm here just helping conduct this orchestra of awesomeness. I'm trying to make things rhyme, and you can't have anything that rhymes with orchestra, so we're just gonna go with that. But anyways, today we're gonna focus on a few different topics, but before we do, Brother Brandon, how was your week?
Thanks for asking, Sean. Yeah, my week's been good. So the Recovery Foundation, True Story Recovery Foundation, I got the letter from the IRS on Monday saying that it's an approved 501(c)(3). That's a big deal. That was how the week started. Received a letter from President Trump saying he received my book. Thanks for the gift. I'd sent him a copy of my book immediately after he signed the executive order for the Great American Recovery Initiative. And that was huge news. My book is in the hands of the most powerful person in the world. And then yesterday had the opportunity to just kind of pour into some people recovery related, and mentor and guide and love on people. And that's one of my favorite things to do, to be completely honest with you. So really enjoyed that. And we've had some unseasonably warm weather in Ohio. So we were in the 70s, high 70s yesterday. So sitting outside on some Adirondack chairs, and having a real honest from the heart discussion with one of my brothers in recovery, dude. So far my week's been good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Before we dive into anything, and before we move on to Brother Josh, we don't focus on politics here. But it's very important that the most important man or most powerful man in the world has Brother Brandon's book. That is super important. And you know, I would say that even having a sitting president or a prior sitting president have your hands on a book, that's important, and it doesn't matter where it came from. So, congratulations to you, Brother Brandon. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Brother Josh, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. It's pretty eventful. I got in contact with a publisher for my book, thanks to Brother Brandon. Um, and it's been a whirlwind, man. It's my last week at my current job, and things are just starting to fall together. It's been a relatively good week. I think the only low point and negative point was on Friday when Cody Rhodes beat Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. A little upset about that, you know. We want Drew. Hashtag we want Drew. So yeah.
Greg, we want Drew. Oh man, that's gold. I wasn't expecting that. That's awesome. Uh, my week following suit, my week has been good. Like Brother Brandon said, we've had in Maryland, we've had unusually warm weather. Like weekend was nice. It was in the 50s. Um, so I was driving around with the windows down. It was great. And then Monday hit and it just went right up to the 70s. And so it was awesome. Went to the gym. I've been consistent in the gym and my self-care. It's important to me to get back in shape. I want to be able to be proud of what I look at when I look in the mirror. So I've been doing that and just hanging out, really, really reflecting on life. Been sitting around with the windows open in the house, trying to air out all the gunk from the winter. I'm going through a weird sickness that seems to be spreading like a wildfire. Everybody that I know has it. So yeah, it's been an eventful week, nice week. I went to the gym today, so once again, continuing that trend of consistency and self-improvement. It's big. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Brother Josh mentioned it, so I'll mention it. I'm on the counterpart of that. I wanted Cody to win. I want to see a heel Cody versus a face Randy or a heel Randy versus face Cody. One of the two.
Brother Sean, you're a Cody crybaby. Oh no.
I am a Cody crybaby. That is
Oh,
me.
oh no. Oh no. We can't have
Yes.
that.
We can't have that. We need to change minds. I love Drew McIntyre, but I also love Cody Rhodes. And if anybody's wondering, don't get confused. I'm drinking Liquid Death grapefruit
You look
because
like
I like
Coors
flavor.
Banquet.
See, when I first, we're gonna jump off that. We're gonna jump off of what we're gonna talk about into this real quick. When I first saw Liquid Death, I was like, "Oh no, that's alcohol." In the water section, I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" And I went and I looked at it, and it's just flavored water. This is flavored sparkling water. I like grapefruit, so yeah, we're not substituting any substances.
Cody
Amen.
crybaby and enjoys grapefruit. Man, what is going on?
The more you learn about me, the more you don't like me. Oh shit. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move into our first topic for today. The first topic that we have today was presented to us uh by Brother Brandon this week, and it's something that I've had to sit on. So the first topic is how shame keeps people stuck in their addiction. And the rules for this are simple. We're going to give 3 to 5 minutes for each person to talk about their perspective on this. And then if there's any interruption that we got to have, hand raised, we'll get to it when we're done with our comments. So, because Brother Brandon introduced this topic, Brother Brandon, take the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Well, actually, I believe Josh had proposed it for week one. And so I was piggybacking off of what he proposed. But one of my mentors in my life, in my early recovery, spoke some wisdom into me when he told me that shame and guilt are the secret weapons of our enemy, the dark forces. So the longer that, the enemy can keep me in shame or feeling ashamed of any of my past mistakes, the more I'm going to try to cover them up, not be honest about them, try to maintain an image where I hope that you like the image that I'm portraying. Meanwhile, in any portrayal, it's an act. So in order to be free to be myself, I have to be honest about any and everything that has ever brought me shame or guilt in order to take away shame or guilt's power. And so I was reading through Wild at Heart by John Eldridge yesterday, and I started gathering some intel from that book about Adam in the Garden of Eden and how he hid in shame after they had eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I sent this message to my mentor, like, hey, do you think I'm getting this? Everything that you've been pouring into me about shame and guilt, like that is consistent throughout scripture. And there seems to be some sort of uh, consistency through scripture that goes, man sinned, hid in shame, and then was forgiven by God. And he said, yeah, he said, I think you're getting it. And this is his exact words that he texted me, and I love it. And I'm going to read it. He said, shame or freedom are the two possible byproducts of our sin. Shame or freedom are the two byproducts of our sin. Shame, if we allow Satan to have his way after we sin, and freedom, if we allow Jesus to remove our shame after we sin. So I dug deeper into the topic through scripture. Romans 10:11 says that anyone who believes in God will never be put to shame. Isaiah 61:7 says something very similar. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. But the caveat is that we must confess our sins. Hence, step 4, a fearless moral inventory. And in 1 John chapter 1, verse 9, we are told that if we confess our sins, that God is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. So when I take that back to what Randy sent me, when he said shame or freedom, keep it that simple. Shame or freedom. Those are the only two byproducts of us sinning or using drugs or sleeping around, whatever sin. Those are the only two byproducts, shame or freedom. And it's based on whoever we take it to. If we take our sin into the dark and isolate and sit there and think, oh, they would be disgusted with me if they ever found out I was watching porno on speed. Or do we take it to God and say, hey, I've sinned. I know this is not who I am. At the core of my being, I fell into a temptation, but I want to give it to you so I can live in freedom. Those are our only two options, according to my research. And so I want to present that shame or freedom are the two byproducts of our sin or our poor decision makings. And we have to confess. That's the caveat. You must confess, and then you're free. You unshackle your soul from all of the guilt and all of the shame for any decision that you've made that brings guilt or shame.
Thank you for sharing. Brother Josh, what you got?
So shame and recovery, it's like it's a big psychological trap that humans built for ourselves. It pretends to be accountability. But most of the time it's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you get pulled down. Um, and the difference between guilt and shame matter a lot in recovery and in life in general. Because accountability builds a future. Shame, it tries to keep you stagnant, like living in a museum. Like you're in the museum, people come to look at you and they just point and laugh pretty much. So, like, first we have to diagnose, like, or distinguish, I mean, the difference between guilt and shame. Like, guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame is, I am something wrong. So, that distinguishing that difference is very powerful to men and women, for their mental health, for their recovery. And I feel like, so shame lives in secrecy pretty much. And it's just like addiction. Addiction loves isolation. You use your substances as a bodyguard, as or a guard dog, pretty much. So you shame yourself into thinking that I need this to protect myself from the outside world, from uh, my family, because a lot of people with their addiction and everything, it focuses on family. You know, you might have had childhood trauma, or a very dysfunctional family that was just super negative, so you dull your pain with substances and it becomes shameful. Taking that accountability and turning that shame into like guilt, it brings you a level of accountability to where you can actually be like, okay, so I did this because of this. And then you can learn to move past it and grow from it. Whereas the shame factor in it is, I drank because my family is alcoholics, so I'm an alcoholic. I'm destined to be an alcoholic. And just I feel like distinguishing the differences is plays a key factor in life in general.
Thank you for sharing. And I agree with both of you. One of the things with guilt and shame that I've seen is it doesn't just perpetuate um our addictive patterns, right? When it comes to like drinking or substance use, but it also uh goes into the addictive behaviors that we have, right? Like the addictive behaviors of I'm not good enough, so therefore I'm not going to try. Or uh because I because I cause so much harm in my addiction, I can never go around people. So you start secluding yourself, right? That's an addictive behavior, right? Running away from the problems that we face. And when we get into the 12-step programs or whatever, we got to make amends to those people. And so really going from the shame factor of like, I feel so shameful. How can I actually um step in this arena of actually communicating with people and talking to them, to the guilt of, yeah, I fucked up and I made a mistake is a big one. But also, moving past that guilt and shame and owning it, right? Owning the fact that we did these things and moving forward from them. I think another issue that we're facing is that um, a lot of our behaviors are guilt driven or shame driven, right? It's not just I feel bad, or I'm, or making the statements of I'm a shitty person because I did X, Y, and Z, which I am completely against negative self-talk. I try to tell people stop shitting on yourself because it's not, you're not helping yourself. But a lot of our behaviors that we have in early recovery and even maybe some late recovery is based around shame and guilt, shame and guilt driven. So it could look anywhere from, giving too much of ourselves to people that haven't reciprocated in return, because we want to provide them a level of security or safety that we never had, right? That's a form of guilt and shame, right? Or when you enter into a friendship and you don't do as much for the other person, like you're withholding yourself from the other person, that could be guilt or shame because you were in a situation where you gave so much of yourself and now you're retracting all of that for another person. And so finding that balance in between, guilt and shame and actually being able to operate, outside of that. I mean, we're all human. We're gonna feel those feelings, right? Like anybody who says I haven't or don't feel guilt or shame, narcissistic qualities. I'm sorry, I'll say it here. I hate that word narcissist. It's used way too much in society today. But the people that say they don't feel guilt or shame, you might want to check yourself, right? You got some underlying issues going on. So I think I want to segue into the next question that I have is, how can we combat guilt or shame when it comes to recovery? Brother Brandon?
Combating guilt or shame, really, in my experience, the only way that I've been able to combat shame and guilt is by being honest. It's the only way that I've found. Um, I remember in my early recovery, I had brothers pouring into me, telling me, your secrets keep you sick. You need to talk about it. You need to be honest about the things that you did. Clean your side of the street. What poor decisions did you make? And that drove me out of recovery 4 or 5 times. Every time I'd get to step 4, the fearless moral inventory, I threw that bitch in reverse and I scourged the tires straight back to where I came from. That is how scared I was. That is how much I was protecting my image from other people because of the secrets that I had that I was going to take to my grave. So if you apply the secrets keep you sick phraseology, 4 or 5 times I got to step 4 and I was willing to stay sick until I was put into the ground. I was willing to do that. That's how I was willing to be sick with all of the anxiety and the depression and the everything that came with the fact that, like, I'm not willing to be completely honest. I'm not willing to walk in that freedom. You're scaring the shit out of me every time you tell me I have to take a fearless moral inventory, or I need to be rigorously honest. Those ideas scare the shit out of me. I'm gone. And when I finally sat down and I started putting pen to paper on, I had the affair. Nobody made me take those pills, even though they were prescribed. Um, I stayed high. I picked drugs over my family. I wasn't present at a lot of my son's events. I was violent. Nobody else did those things. When I'm writing them, shit, I got to a point a couple times, fellas, where I started bawling, dude. I had to get up and walk away from the computer because what I was writing about took me right back into that emotional feeling that I felt when these things happened. And when I finally got it all out, that was the only way anybody was going to convince me that being honest and telling the truth about the wreckage that I caused, about the poor decisions that I made, was going to heal me. You couldn't convince me. I ran from sponsors, dude. I ran from them like fast, like Forrest Gump when he played for Alabama fast. And then I wrote it all down and I got really honest. I started sharing in meetings. I started speaking at churches and at youth groups and being honest. And I felt the weight lift off of my shoulders. And that's the only way I found, Sean and Josh, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing, brother. Brother Josh, what you got for us?
So in my book, I wrote about accountability without self-hatred. It requires owning the damage done, but beating yourself up forever doesn't repair anything. Like making amends, changing behavior, living differently does. Self-destruction disguised as taking responsibility is still self-destruction. So there's different levels of shame. Like you got your, personal shame that you feel, but there's also something called borrowed shame, where it's family disappointments, court records, all that stuff, like public perception of you. You take that on, and you have to learn how to distinguish which is the borrowed shame from other people or what is yours to carry, you know? So I say this in my book, shame loses power when purpose grows. So, like Brandon said, mentoring, speaking, sponsoring people. If you work in the recovery field, like I have, that's where your purpose grows, and you can learn to lose that shame because you're using it to help other people. Because people don't connect with perfection; they connect with survival.
Absolutely. Thank you both for sharing. For me, guilt and shame, like combating them, was really hard in early recovery, especially, in the earliest stages of early recovery. Um, I didn't want to be honest. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to share those things because, we're taught as young boys not to talk about our feelings, our emotions, suck it the fuck up, right? But for me, I didn't want to open that bag of secrets because if I open that bag of secrets, who's gonna say, you know, wh- who's gonna have an opinion about me? And I was so worried about what other people had to say about me. I was so worried about the perception that other people had of me instead of the perception that I had of myself. And the first moment that I was offered that opportunity to be brutally honest, I didn't want to take it. I was like, nope, we're not playing this game. Fuck that. But I didn't have the option. I didn't have the option not to take it. I my options were you do this or you go back to jail, simply put. So I opted to take it. And it was the greatest one of the greatest gifts that I was given that I didn't even know I was given. The first opportunity for me to actually be vulnerable and talk about the things that I did wrong. And I had to make this big ass pyramid. There's a program that's called Moral Reclamation Therapy. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it more in later episodes, but this program saved my life. And the first step is, opening and sharing your bag of secrets. Fuck, I was terrified, man. Like honestly terrified. I had to go back 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, and then a year prior to, and it was crazy, because all the things that had accumulated over time, the damage I had done over time, all that stuff, I shared it. And after I was done, I called my mentor and I said, "Hey, I don't feel good about sharing this." And he's like, "You're not supposed to, but it's the foundation for you to start healing." And I did, and it was awesome. So now I find myself in this space of I would much rather be honest and say the hard thing and get to that point where I'm like, okay, the guilt and the shame are there, but it's not so prevalent, instead of hiding behind the shadows and hiding behind the bullshit that I had done to other people. So that's how I combat, much like, Brandon said, being rigorously honest, talking about the things that suck, even if we don't want to say it, right? Even if it's like you're ending a relationship and you don't want to hold on anymore, but society tells you have to hold on. That's a level of guilt and shame that you hold on to, and self-destruction, like brother Josh said. So being honest with it and saying, hey, look, right, like this just is not fitting me, in this space, in this dynamic, is very, very paramount. The last topic that we are going to talk about, and this I think is a very big topic because of the things that I see out on social media versus what it's really like, is the saying that recovery is not soft, it's brutal. Brother Brandon would, or actually, you know what? Brother Josh brought this up. So brother Josh, you go ahead. You take you lead this carriage.
So the the perception, like you said, about social media, that recovery is like this sunshine and roses thing where it's all hugs and, community. It's not always like that, especially in the beginning, because as someone who works in the recovery field, like I see every point of view of recovery, the good and the bad, the gray area, um, the relapses, everything. Uh, Recovery takes a lot of hard work, like a lot of hard work. It's not just going to meetings. It's not just following program standards where you're at. It's, doing your step work, staying in contact with your sponsor, um, leaning on others that have prolonged clean time, not just someone that has like 30 days, because and it's nothing against people in early recovery, but that's why in a lot of programs we have a buddy system where when you first come to said program, you can't go anywhere by yourself. You have to have somebody that has at least I think it's 3 months clean to be able to go out and do your own thing, even if it's just going to a job interview. So when we say recovery isn't soft, that it's brutal, it is brutal. There's people out there that have 18 years clean and they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. They have their own businesses, they have cars, they've built a life, they have a family, and all it takes is just one temptation, one setback in your life. And if you're not strong enough, if you haven't built that community, if you haven't built that support system, or have strength in, your step work or your sponsor, however you tend to lead your recovery, a relapse, I'll say that relapse is the ugly stepsister of recovery. Nobody wants to talk about her, but she's there. So that's what we mean when we say it's not soft, it's brutal. Because if you go it alone, 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna work out. You have to be able to lean on others, and that's why we created this podcast, to show men that it's okay to lean on each other. It's okay to reach out and be like, "Hey, man, I'm having a bad day. Um, I'm thinking about, harming myself or putting this in my system." And all it takes is just to pick up that phone, send a text back, 20 seconds, and you could save somebody's life. You could save somebody's recovery, sobriety, I'll say. So I believe recovery is it's definitely about fellowship. And that's where the soft stigma comes in, is everybody sees all these grown men hugging each other and they're like, oh, that's that's some sissy stuff. No, that's real growth. And that's real love.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, brother Josh. Brother Brandon, what you got for us?
Yeah. So first of all, I've heard it outside of the recovery world. I've heard people say things like, how come he keeps relapsing? He's weak, and that shit drives me nuts. Because if somebody's willing to come back into a program, a recovery room after a relapse, that is some of the most courageous shit I've ever witnessed with my own two eyeballs, bro. Coming back in after a year or 2 or 3 and taking a 24-hour chip, that shit puts goosebumps on my arms and tears in my eyes every fucking time. So this weak shit, you're talking to the wrong group of people with all that weak bullshit, because I've met some of the strongest men in my life in recovery. And second, dude, if there was ever a real zombie apocalypse, I would go to every AA room that I know and gather some of these dudes. Uh, they know how to survive. when it comes to survival skills, people in recovery are the best I've ever seen. And I mean that shit from the bottom of my heart. So soft, yeah, I can't get down with that. I sure didn't feel soft when I was writing down everything that I'd ever done wrong. I sure didn't feel soft when I walked up with tears in my eyes to people that I'd hurt and said, I'm sorry. I sure didn't feel soft f- walking into recovery rooms when all I wanted to do was hide in shame. I didn't feel soft at all. And I've never seen somebody soft that walked into a recovery room and said, my name's so and so, and I have 24 hours. No, bro. Matter of fact, I've seen the exact opposite of soft. I've seen courage, bravery, strength, resilience. So, yeah, anybody who's got this idea that recovery soft, yeah, I don't get down with that. And then the work. I know I didn't focus on the work part of it, but yeah, no, the work is brutal. Yeah, it's brutal, man. Getting that honest with yourself, it's rewarding, it's freeing, it unshackles your heart and your mind and your soul. But it's not easy saying things like, I have same sex early childhood sexual trauma. That shit ain't easy. Yeah, I had an affair on the woman that I loved. That shit ain't easy. Or no, I acted out violently over people stealing from me. That shit ain't easy. That shit is that it is not easy. It's brutal. And so yeah, anybody that has made it deep into the step work, they know what we're talking about. And then if you haven't, gosh, please don't let this scare you away. Uh, as a matter of fact, do the opposite and I hope it encourages you to get honest and find that freedom. Because even though we're using words like brutal, like on the other side of that brutal, just like everything else that's tough in life, high school, exams, on the other, the military boot camp. On the other side of that is something very rewarding. So, yeah, face that shit head on, man, and go get that freedom, go get that peace. It's there.
Thank you for sharing, brother Brandon. I appreciate you. I would have to say, I think we all agree here that there's a difference between sobriety and recovery, right? Sobriety is like, I'm just not going to drink, right? And we're not really doing anything about it. Versus recovery is like, we are not just, saying that we're done with that substance and we're working on creating a better life for ourselves without the use of a substance, but it's tackling the shadow, tackling the hard things that we don't want to talk about. And for me, what I see in social media and out and about is, people talking about, being sober for X amount of time. And that's great. Like, congratulations. Well, what are you doing for yourself to improve your life? And I see so many people still complaining about the same things over and over and over again. And I see people with the same problems as they had when they were in their active addiction. They just quit drinking. Recovery is brutal because it forces you to look at all of the mistakes that you've made in your life, atone for them, and then become a better person. And it's not like you're the whipping boy, like you're not standing in front of a group of people and they're shaming you. You're literally standing in front of a group of people and admitting to the things that you have done in your life and how you can change. I am a big proponent, if there is a problem, bring a solution or a potential solution so that we can work toward, changing things. And the reason why I'm a big proponent of that is because I used to have all the problems and I never had solutions for the problems, or I never sought out the solution. And I found comfort in the misery of not having those solutions, not making myself any better, therefore victimizing myself. And it would have to be going from that victim mentality of, why does this always happen to me, to the mentality of, this happens for me, right? Like, I am in a much better place now because I am in recovery, because I am abstaining from drugs and alcohol, because I am practicing my self-care and my self-accountability every single day. And recovery is brutal, because those aren't things that we want to talk about. And if you can pick up on the theme of what we've talked about today, it's about accountability, and it's about guilt and shame, and taking responsibility for the things that you did wrong. And by no means is this a stigma with men or women, but women tend to have a better perspective on taking accountability for things in recovery. And I've seen this. Whereas men, we look at, and I've found this in myself, is that we tend to point outward instead of inward. Like, hey, if my wife wouldn't have left me, I wouldn't have relapsed. Did she make you relapse? Did she give you the bottle? Did she pop the pills for you? No. You did that on your own. That was a fucking choice that you made. So now you have to make up, you have to be accountable for the decisions that you made. But that doesn't take away from the real trauma. And so tackling that trauma of, a lot of us have abandonment issues when we enter into recovery. That's one of our fuels, right? That fuels our addiction, is that abandonment. So when we hit that, right, what are we going to do with it? And I think that there's a really good saying, and it's it came from a movie trailer that isn't even out yet. And it's a movie trailer for Doomsday, for Doomsday. And you've got Professor X on one side, you got Magneto on the other side, and they're old. And Magneto looks at Professor X and says, "Death comes for us all. Who will you be when you close your eyes?" And when I heard that, like, I got instant chills, because it's like, holy shit, this is what I've been what I've been working for my whole life in recovery, is who will I be to myself when I close my eyes? Who will I be to the people around me when I close my eyes the final time? And I don't like to think about death, but it's a real thing, right? Like, it really comes for us all. So who am I going to be? Am I going to be just that drunk asshole? Right? Or am I going to be that guy that inspired people because of my recovery? Am I going to be that person that helped those when they needed help? Right? Am I the one that's going to be giving of myself in recovery, because that is what's going to help propel me to be a better human being? So yeah, recovery is brutal. There's going to be times, I lost a marriage like 3 years into fucking recovery, dude. Took all those triggers that I had from my abandonment wound and like picked them right out and was like, "Here you go, buddy. Enjoy." And it fucked me up. But at the end of the day, I was better for it, because I was able to maintain my sobriety, my recovery, and I used the tools and skills learned to advance and make myself a better version of who I am than I was the day before. So before we shut down shop, I kind of want to I want to hit on this, and I think that it's important to like look ahead, right? Look ahead of what we got going on in this immediate moment, just for a moment. So, brother Brandon, what are you excited for in this upcoming week?
Shoot, man, you caught me off guard with that. Um, I'm going fishing with my son on Saturday. Super excited for that. So many things that both you guys talked about as I listen, that I have key points that are taking me right back to that book, Wild at Heart by John Eldridge, too, about men and how we do look outward, not inward, typically. And so it makes me even more excited to go on that manly adventure with my son, regaining masculinity and teaching him, the journey of a man's heart. And then aside from that, man, reading some more, putting more good stuff into my brain, practicing my disciplines. Because every time I practice disciplines, I build a little bit more love for self, and I have a little bit more uh, resilience than before. And so, yeah, probably those things right there.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Brother Josh, what about you? What you got? What are you excited for this coming?
Uh, I'm excited to embark on this new career path that I've chosen to help fuel my dream of becoming an author, becoming a keynote speaker, motivational speaker. Um, And I'm excited to, it's been a continuous like self-improvement journey for me I'm trying to become a better man. And when I say that, I mean I'm trying to become a better fiance. I'm trying to become a better son. Trying to become a better father, uncle, brother. So that's something I work on every day is to try and better myself so that people can look at me and like you said with the Magneto thing, people can look at me and be proud of who I am, once I close my eyes for the last time. And I want my fiance to eventually, she's going to become my wife. Um, I want her to be proud to call me her husband because she means the absolute world to me. She has been my biggest support through all these life changes that I've been embarking on. I'm not discrediting you guys either, because you guys have been a huge support. um, and I will forever be grateful to you guys. I have all the love and utmost respect for you guys. So I'm excited about where this is gonna go. I'm excited about where my trajectory is headed.
Oh yeah, that's a lot to be excited for. And that's awesome. My week this week, going into this next week is exciting. I my final class for my shamanic healing classes that I'm doing tomorrow, and then I move on to my practitionership classes. I'm really excited about that. This path I'm on, and it's a beautiful one. Tomorrow after class, I get to go meet up with somebody that I haven't seen in years. He is a brother in recovery in Alaska, and he just so happens to be on this side of the country for a week. So I'm going to go meet him up. We're going to have dinner, catch up. It's going to be awesome. Friday, I'm getting my tattoos filled in, right? Or finished, not filled in because they're pretty filled in right now. But I'm getting my Ravens touched up. I'm excited about that. And then with every good thing, there's something not so great that comes along with it. My roommate is moving this weekend. He's moving to the Philippines. So yeah, he's been at the house for a year, and he's a great human being, but he felt that this was the right move for him. So, I'm gonna fully support him in doing what he's doing. And so this is gonna be the first taste of being alone that I've ever had since I was an adult. So it's a good practice for me. I've always had people surrounded around me, and this is going to be a good moment for me to just sit with myself and just be with myself in complete silence with nobody around, where there's nobody I can physically in the moment turn to, and it's going to have to give me that moment to practice those tools and those skills that I learned in early recovery. So I'm really excited about it. It's 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 rough, but it's going to be a good perspective and a good change for me. I know it will be. So that is our show for this week. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you would be so kind as to like and subscribe, leave a comment, it's going to help us spread the message of recovery. Share that shit too. It's important. Share it. And just get the word out there that there's brothers that you can turn to. And when our show starts taking off, we're going to start taking questions and comments from the comments section, and we're going to start integrating them into our episodes. So until next week, I hope you guys have a nice week. Much love.